Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It seems to me like this committee is very much caught up in finding ways to attack the decisions of the Biden-Harris administration, that my Republican colleagues are now literally upset at the administration for using diplomacy to help free Americans who've been unjustly detained by foreign regimes. And let's look at the facts. Americans were set free, no violence occurred, and the overall situations with Iran did not escalate. Not every interaction with our adversaries should start and end with aggression and more tension. Even former President Donald Trump didn't try to escalate every situation. You know, when he was palling around with Kim Jong-un, Republicans didn't call him out for it. The difference here is that Trump asked for nothing and got nothing. Meanwhile, President Biden has brought home 6 American citizens. I didn't hear that outrage we just heard from one of my colleagues when he stepped into North Korea and got nothing. If you haven't picked it up, the point I'm making here is that if Donald Trump had done this, Republicans on this committee would be praising him. Instead, President Biden did, and so it's a full-on scandal, and we're having this hearing. The Americans that we're talking about in this hearing, the ones that were brought home, include Ahmad Shargi, a father who raised his daughters in the United States, whose wife describes him as the kindest, gentlest partner, the most present father. It includes Simak Namazi, an American businessman who was imprisoned along with his father, a former UNICEF official, and also Murad Tabaz, a businessman, conservationist, and father. These Americans were falsely accused and convicted of collaborating with the U.S. government. And I hope that we can get past all the politics of this and agree that bringing them home was the right thing to do. Ms. Slavin, can you describe for us the so-called judicial process these political detainees have gone through?
Well, first, Congressman, they're not quite home yet. They're still sitting in a hotel in Tehran. Hopefully, within a few days, they will indeed be home.
Yeah.
Look, the process by which they were convicted was a sham, and everyone knows it. Siamak Namazi is a personal friend of mine. His crime was trying to improve US-Iran relations. For that, he was sentenced to 10 years for espionage. It's ridiculous. I think it's a problem because we have a large Iranian diaspora. People who go home, they visit their relatives, and unfortunately, they have to travel on Iranian passports, and so they're always liable to be picked up and used as pawns. Maximum pressure did not stop the taking of hostages. Nothing has stopped the taking of hostages. Iran has a lot of different motives for doing it. I wish there were a way to end this despicable practice, but unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be.
What are conditions like in the prison where they were held?
Evin Prison is a dreadful place. There have been a number of books written about it. Hala Esfandiari, Jason Rezaian have written about their time there. Often people are held in solitary confinement. They're interrogated every day, sometimes tortured. Sometimes they're thrown in with ordinary criminals. It is a dreadful place, and we should not let an American spend one extra day there if we can do something about it.
And historically, what actions have been effective in returning Americans from political detention?
The only thing that has worked has been the unfreezing of Iranian assets or the release of Iranians arrested in the United States. I go back to the Reagan administration. You know, in 1981, when our 52 American diplomats came home, it was after the Reagan administration unfroze Iranian assets that had been frozen in the United States. Reagan also was involved with Iran-Contra, as you may remember, sending weapons to Iran to get Americans freed from Lebanon. So this is a bipartisan policy and a bipartisan problem.
So diplomacy and negotiations.
Diplomacy, negotiations, unfreezing of assets, that's all that's ever worked.
Today we're discussing Iran policy in the midst of a prisoner release talks that are 2 years in the making. Some of us seek to politicize the situation against President Biden's policy, a policy that is currently concentrating on reuniting families and protecting Americans. Securing the release of American political prisoners and hostages should not be a partisan issue. We should all be united in this goal. Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you.